come from a Western science background. I used to work at St Thomas's Hospital in the haematology lab. So I've got a very Western science background, and a few years ago when my son was born, within a few months he was diagnosed as being asthmatic, and as the years progressed he got worse and worse. We tried all kinds of treatments, and eventually he was put on a course of antibiotics a month, a whole range of inhalers, and he still got worse. And there were times when we were rushing him into hospital, and my friends would say to me, why don't you try this treatment, that treatment? And obviously coming from a Western background, I wasn't very pro alternative medicine. I think it sounds pretty dramatic, but there was a time when we rushed him into hospital and the doctor had said to me, had I brought him in 5 minutes later, I wouldn't have had a son left. And I think when you're desperate, you clutch at anything. And that's when I looked at alternative medicines, and we exposed us to reflexology and acupuncture, and the results were amazing. He's now, this is when he was 6 years old, he is now 17, and he hasn't had an inhaler since. He's an amazingly different person. From being an introvert, he's full of confidence, he's out there, he's playing sports, and I think that opened my eyes to alternative medicine, and here I am.
There are two canals, a pair of arteries. Now this artery is a very special artery. That's why nature has protected it. No other arteries in the body has received such a special protection. There must be a reason. So much so that if you look at the cervical vertebra, this is the cervical vertebra, there are two holes here, like a canal. You know, so nature has geared up for it. The reason being, this pair of artery supplies blood to the ancient part of our brain, the subconscious part of the brain, the reptilar brain as we call it. The conscious part of the brain, which is the cortex, came in much later. So new part of the brain, new blood circulation. So the carotids actually supply blood primarily to the conscious part of the brain. Now subconscious part of the brain is where all the healing takes place. You have hormonal controls, balance, gait, short-term memory, sleep, well-being, heart rate, breathing, digestion, reproduction, libido, everything is in the subconscious part of the brain. The conscious brain is responsible for logic, for decision making, and for long-term memory and such things. But the subconscious part of the brain controls everything. That's why the blood supply to the subconscious part of the brain is very important, and so nature has protected it. Now amongst the areas of the brain which are responsible for allergies as such is the pituitary gland. The pituitary hypothalamic area controls your immune system. So when a child is born, you know, if it is a very rapid birth, like a champagne cork birth, tight birth canal, and suddenly out goes the head, within half an hour the baby is out even before you reach the hospital, then what happens? That the neck is squashed. Okay? Then if you have forceps delivery or some injuries, or if it's a prolonged birth, the hip is not very large and the contraction is weak, and so the birth is like for 20 hours, 30 hours, the constant contraction, you have all sorts of trauma. Besides that, if you have falls and other traumas, then you cause damage to the neck. Such children have weak lungs. They get constant colds and coughs, and so the allergies build up.
The worst thing about being ill is that you feel as if you've lost command of your life. You no longer have any control over it. You feel like a leaf being tossed about in the wind, and that is totally disempowering. The reason for this DVD is to give you back the power, or at least to remind you to take that power back, to take command of your own life, to take responsibility for your own healing process. It doesn't mean taking the blame for getting ill. It means taking responsibility for recovering from here. You're going to need help, you're going to need the doctors, you're going to need alternative health practitioners, but It's you that has to take responsibility for it. And as soon as you do that, you get your power back. And when you get your power back, you get your health back. And that's what we're here to do, to give you, is to remind you, take control, take command of your own life now.